Hey, Vinyl Community, it's Mazzy here, and I'm with Brian, Red Beans and Rice. And are
Black
you
beans
in
and rice.
Philadelphia or near Philadelphia?
Black beans and rice. Although I like red beans and rice as
Oh,
well,
sorry.
but black beans and rice are more important to me.
Well,
I
I didn't
live in
call you Eric Weinberger or anything, Weinbender burgers.
Pretty Green Vinyl guy. You had a hard time remembering his channel
Oh,
earlier.
God. Well, and I'm doing another thing with Edwin this weekend, Neil Young.
Right.
I know everybody's name, but after a while, there's so many different people. Blues guy vinyl or vinyl guy.
Yeah.
You kind of get confused.
No, no worries at all. I live in excuse me, southern New Jersey, like 10, 15 minutes outside of Philly.
Oh, okay.
So I
Yeah.
hang in Philly all the time. That's where we go to bars and shows and restaurants and stuff.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about going to record stores there and things and all that. Yeah,
Yeah, there's record stores everywhere in Philly and in South Jersey as well.
sure.
Princeton's only about an hour away. I go to Princeton Record Exchange, so it's a nice area for digging for records for sure.
Great,
Yeah.
great. Well, what we're doing here, we're doing a video on comps, and we're each picking about 10 or so. And comps could be either single artist comps, like maybe greatest hits. I didn't do specific greatest hits for one artist, but most of mine, two of them are like that. The rest are collections. A couple are soundtracks, which I consider collections
Okay.
in this case. We'll go back and forth. And Brian got me into he forced my hand into pouring a little mezcal.
True, I did.
And I'm showing this Mezcal Amores. One of my former students, I was also, aside from being a photo agent, I was teaching business photography classes, Academy of Art in San Francisco. And her and her boyfriend, she's from Mexico, and her boyfriend visited last summer and
I
brought me,
watched the video. I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, they brought me this from video. We did a whack-a-mole together. And this
Oh,
was
cool.
so sweet. I mean,
From
this was,
Oaxaca.
yeah, 2019. It's hand signed and numbered and everything. Like I need to get them up here again because I'm almost out there.
Nice.
But it's lasted a
You've done
long
some
time.
damage on that bottle. So I'm drinking one. I don't know much about mezcal to be honest, but I grabbed this from Wegmans liquor store. It's called Los Amantes. It was really expensive, so I hope
And,
it's good.
and what does that mean in Spanish? I don't know.
God, I don't know either.
Amores is probably like love or something. So
Yeah.
I have a
Okay.
couple ice cubes. I'm just doing a couple little.
Are you just gonna sip it or take it as a shot?
I sip it. I'm
Yeah.
not I mean, unless if I maybe at a bar, if someone says do a shot, but I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. No.
I'm
No.
gonna
No.
just sip.
Go.
I'm
Cheers.
too old for shots now.
Yeah.
Cheers,
Me too.
Brian.
Cheers. Cheers, Mazzy. Thanks for having me on the program.
Mm.
Hmm. Not bad.
Okay, so I always like I'm the home team, so I go last in theory. So Brian, you can start out, and if you want to talk why you came up with this concept. So
Yeah. I know you're a fan of comps. That's why I suggested it. Is it better if I show records on this side or this side? Do you know?
well, probably that side because you got a white wall there. This is me the aesthetic now. You could block the white wall and
Okay.
not block. Yeah, you know.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So the first comp I pulled, real mainstream stuff, right? Um, really mainstream album, but I thought it was appropriate to show because it's widely regarded as the first greatest hits album of all time. So that is Elvis's Golden Records
I did not know that.
from 1958. This is an original mono copy that I grabbed at Academy Music in Manhattan. I left
That's
the price
beautiful
to ground.
looking. That's beautiful looking.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's almost like the kind of copy that was in shrink right when it got to the store. Then for some reason they took it out. I don't know if that even happens,
I
but
hate when they put those friggin' stickers right on the record like that, though.
well, everyone does that here, though. I mean, I heard people complain about that in the VC. I only know of like one or two stores in my area that doesn't put them right on the jacket.
I mean, there are some here, but I mean, I know because people rip off and change the plastic, change prices or whatever. But I
Yeah.
mean, make a removable kind of some kind because it really screws up, especially a record like that, right?
Princeton Record Exchange puts it right on the jacket, but it's a circle sticker and it's like huge. And then they put the sticker on, then they write the price. So if you hold it up to the light right and you take the sticker off, you can see the indent of the price.
Wankers.
Yeah, but they're total pros. It's the only thing I don't like that they do. But yeah, so
Yeah.
regarded as the first ever greatest hits, I only left this on because I paid $8 for it, and it's like a mint a mono. I was like, all right,
Wow.
I like the way the sticker sat on there.
That's a beautiful copy.
So this is a collection of all his early hits on RCA. So you got Hound Dog, All Shook Up, Heartbreak Hotel, Don't Be Cruel, Love Me Tender, all those songs that we all know, which I'm a big Elvis fan and 50s rock and roll in general.
Right, right, right.
So I thought since it's kind of a historic greatest hits, I thought I would show that one first.
That's a perfect start to it. I'm only going a few years later, actually. Well, actually, I'm not doing Columbia had, I think, my first two greatest hits records when I was a kid, since I'm older, in the 60s, were Bob Dylan's greatest hits on Columbia and the Byrds' greatest hits on Columbia. And they came out maybe both in 65 or 66. I don't know exactly. This is not that, but this is a later Sundazed version of this. And what's great about this is hard to get now. It's out of print. And I know Mike from Jam on Vinyl has been trying to get this because he's like the big mono guy that always wants so much, rightly so, mono. Yeah. I'm not a big snooty mono person.
Right. He'll be salivating at the Elvis mono.
Yeah, every time I show, and I just showed this on another video too. But this is a double album. What this is, it's all the A and B sides 45s of the Byrds on Columbia. Cool. And obviously it starts with Mr. Tamarina and goes all the way up to Going Back and Changes Now. Going Back, which they used in Easy Rider and beyond. But it's got My Back Pages, 8 Miles High, Fifth Dimension, Turn, Turn, Turn. Everything you'd expect from the Byrds. And it's just a great comp. Sundays, I think, are really good. I mean, their covers aren't all high end always, but they do. They've reissued the Byrds albums and some of the Dylan albums in mono, some Mamas and Papas, and just some other great things, some Velvet Underground. And I think Bob Irwin, who runs the company and does a lot of the mastering, used to be in-house at Columbia for years, so he has access to a lot, or connections. So that's why a lot of the Columbia stuff turns up on Sundays. This is way before the whole vinyl renaissance, where now labels are doing a lot themselves, because for a while they would license stuff out because they didn't really give a crap. It was like, just, hey, take the licensing money, they didn't have to do anything. But this is a great one. This came out 2002, I think. But it's hard to get now. I guess the license is up, so they can't reprint it. But I think it'd be a nice one to connect with. But if you guys who watch my channel know that one of my top 3 bands is the Byrds.
Oh, I don't watch your channel. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, but no, I know. I watch all your videos, but I like the Byrds as well. And I think you guys, like you, have gotten me more into them, to be honest. So I've picked up I have a mono copy of 5D that I grabbed in Pittsburgh when I was digging with Chad at Horbiz.
Nice.
So I've picked up a few here and there. I need to get some more of the early ones though from them. Never seen that comp before, so that was cool.
It's hard to, I mean,
I have no order to mine. They're all jumbled up.
Okay.
So anyways, next one I showed here. It's a comp that has multiple artists on it. I showed this in a video, and you commented on that video, so I know you've seen me show this. So not, trucking on. It's a trucker country comp. This came
I don't have it, but I don't remember what I said, but I don't have it.
I don't think you commented on this in particular, but you commented on the video, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, I mean, whatever. It's a double LP. On Columbia, kind of interesting Capitol, sorry.
The Tower.
Capitol label. And it just has lots of classic trucker country songs. Probably the most famous song on here is 6 Days on the Road, which was made popular by Dave Dudley, written by Tom T. Hall. Really excellent song. I listen to that song like at least once a week.
And so many people have covered it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love Dave Dudley's version. I only listen to that one, to be honest. And I think he's even done multiple versions of it throughout his career. But like Merle Haggard's on here, a track called Moving On.
I know that song.
Really good stuff. Like, it's easy to overlook this kind of country. A lot of people write it off. And I know you've shown some country on your channel.
Well, I'm a big Merle Haggard fan. I like 60s country. I like Tom T. Hall. I like Gary Stewart. That's more in the 70s. But I like Buck Owens in a Buckaroos. Is there any Buck Owens on there?
There's no Buck Owens on here.
He was on Capitol, so I thought that may be a Capitol comp.
Okay. Got one Glenn Campbell track on here. You
Yeah,
got it's a great song on here by a guy named Dick Curlis
yeah.
called actually there's several tracks by him, but the one I like is called Tombstone Every Mile.
I
Really
know that.
interesting song. There's a great guy in here called Red So Vine. He does like a talking song
Mhm.
called Phantom 309.
I know that song. Yeah.
Very cool story, really cool song. He's got this amazing kind of deep voice. So yeah, it's great stuff. Trucker country, easy to overlook, but great
Yeah.
music.
Did you just stumble on that, or did someone turn you on to it?
I found this in a dollar bin at a shop that's local in a town called Collingswood, New Jersey, right around my house. They actually are more like an instrument shop, repairs and lessons and stuff, but they have some vinyl. And I found this in the bins. I've seen Headley shows and stuff like this before.
In the UK? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, another fat bearded man talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. 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 I
He
love
obviously
his stuff.
he shows the most country of any channel,
Yeah.
probably.
I love his stuff and his English. Yeah. Now
Yeah.
that looks like a 70s comp. Is that like a 70s?
Um, yeah, I think it came out in the mid '70s. The
Yeah.
jacket's like ridiculously flimsy, just stuffed into. It's not a gatefold jacket or anything, but here's the label. It's kind of a cool label. It's got the Capitol West building, I guess, and is that in LA?
Yeah, it's Vine, Hollywood Vine. That they call that the house that Nat built because Nat King Cole sold so many records for Capitol early on that they made all this money and they built the
Oh,
Capitol
cool.
Tower. That's where Sinatra
Yeah,
recorded all
they have like basements, recording studios and stuff there. I know
great
you can
studio. Yeah, I went on a tour on it once, and it's just an amazing place. I had clients that were art directors in that building, and they gave me a tour, and it's just awesome. All the stuff that was recorded there, really amazing.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Nat King Cole. You show a lot of his Nat King Cole trio stuff. You have that box set. I've seen you
I
show.
love, yeah, that mosaic. I mean, I showed it just yesterday again, or the other
Oh,
day. And I just love anytime I get a chance. That's one of the probably my most played CD sets of everything. So I
mm,
just love that stuff.
yeah.
All right, I'm not unfamiliar again from my channel, but the Kinks.
Mm,
And this, what's great about this set, I like. I've done a video on comps at one point, or I've introduced some things. I love one that it's not always just a greatest hits, where they take album cuts and alternate things or singles. And this is when the Kinks were leaving Reprise from '66 to '71, and they were going to RCA Records. And so without the band's not, I mean, I think they owed him some kind of comp, and they didn't put this together, but it was put together independently. What's great about it, it has a bunch of songs from those albums, those Reprise albums. It has a bunch of singles that were not on albums, and one, I think it had one, I forgot which song, one never released in America
mm,
cut, and it's just a really good. So it's the hits and then some. So goes for some album tracks, great liner notes. Probably my favorite period of the Kinks is all those Reprise years. Obviously, in the UK, they'd be on Pi Records.
mm-hmm.
This record, it's kind of, I mean, it's you can get it, but it was supposed to come out this year for Record Store Day.
Oh,
So depending on how that all works out, it's
yeah,
going to be
yeah.
available on Record Store Day. I think
I've
Redbone.
seen it around. I've seen it around before,
Yeah,
and I've never grabbed it. I have like at least 10 or 15 Kinks records. I'm a huge fan as well, but I never
a
grabbed
great
it.
listen. I mean, because it goes through the, Waterloo Sunset's probably my favorite Kink song, and Victoria, and just it's just really good. So that's
Nice.
the only two main, like, people. If people guess what I was going to pick, they would guess those
Yeah.
two.
I finally found a copy of Arthur, like I guess it was last year. Been looking for that for probably 8, 10 years. It seems
Really,
like I've had it on CD since I was in high school or
I love
college.
that record. Yeah,
Never see it, and I found it at Princeton Record Exchange. I was so happy.
yeah, yeah.
Next one I pulled here, I showed in my very first video, just about a year and a half ago that I made. The comp on Luaka Bop, which is
Ah,
David Byrne's label.
yep.
Yeah, Soul, what is it called? World Psychedelic Classics, Volume 4, The Existential Soul of Tim Maya, Nobody Can Live Forever.
Wow.
Um, I saw Roger Coleman show this like 5 years ago when I was kind of get early in the VC watching videos, well before I started making them. And I slept on it for a while, finally checked it out like about a year ago. And it's just killer. It's Brazilian, he's Brazilian, and it's like samba stuff, but it's heavily influenced by soul music. So it's like real funky and soulful, but with the Brazilian kind of Latin feel to it.
Luca Box, such a great label, and I think I don't know if any of that of his stuff, but they did those 2 or 3 volumes of Brazilian uh, comps with different
Yep,
artists. That's I have one of those,
yep.
or
I
two of
don't
them on
have
CD,
those.
one on LP.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't have those, but
Yeah, those are really
I have a couple
nice.
records on Luaka Pop. They're all nice pressings and everything. So this is all just Tim Maya. It's all like I think it's late '60s and '70s stuff. Mostly sung in Portuguese. There's some English songs as well. I think he lived in the States for a couple years, but then was eventually kicked out. Like he got involved in some like crime and pot possession or something like that, and he was kicked out of the country. But then he joined some kind of religious cult in the '70s, I think, or '80s. Started wearing all white. Um, they detail in the liner notes. So kind of an out there guy, into drugs and stuff, I think, but really great music, great singer, and just a cool presence on these songs,
Yeah.
man. It's awesome
I'll
stuff.
keep an eye out for that one if I see it, because I come across those every once in a while. Like I just skip over them for some reason.
Yeah, really. I'll follow up with you in a couple weeks to make sure you check this out.
Okay.
It's incredible music.
Yeah,
So yeah,
the
my
vinyl community hasn't been great on my bank account. That's for sure.
yeah, I hear that. But
There's a handful. I mean, I like everything I watch, but there's a handful of people that almost sight unseen or not sight unseen. I don't hear it, but if they talk about a certain record, usually I may grab it depending on how they talk about it, that record.
mm,
My next one is this, and I showed this on a comp. This is called From Bam Dam to Cherry O Baby. This is the first I think this is one of the best reggae comps ever, and it came out in 1972. So it came out, I could pair this with the Harder They Come soundtrack. That came out, the movie was made in 72. The soundtrack didn't come to America until 73. And I, obviously knew about reggae. I think the first Wailers album on Island didn't come out till 73 either. But I got this as an import. I heard about it, or playing it in Tower Records in Columbus and Bay. And it's so good. And I didn't really, I mean, I knew reggae. I think as a kid, the first reggae song I heard, and I had no idea what reggae was Desmond Dekker, The Israelites.
oh, great
And
song.
that was a hit, but we didn't know that was what, 66, 67 or something. We didn't know that was called reggae. It was just kind of
Mm,
soul music. And this is a comp of different artists, and it has Toots and the Maytals, Desmond Decker's on here, Hopetown Lewis and the Chosen Few, Eric Donaldson. It's such a good record. And then in the 70s, when I worked in a store, we play this in the store all the time, and it was an import. So we always wanted to only play when we had copies in. So we'd order, like, we were a smaller neighborhood store, but we'd order like 15, 20 copies of this. And every time we'd play it, we'd sell 2 or 3 copies. Like it was like, and people just like this music, but they didn't know what they were buying until they heard it. So great record. I think you can get the CD. Probably the original is a little hard to find these days, but UK, it's on Trojan record, which was, the first sort of mainstream, in a way, reggae label out of UK
yep.
and Jamaica. So really great record.
Nice. I've never seen that before. It looks awesome.
Oh yeah.
Trojan did tons of those CD comps as well that I always used to want to pick up and I never did.
Yeah.
Now it seemed like maybe a little bit hard to find.
Yeah. I mean, all the stuff is great. I mean, this period before things got really commercial, and I love the Wailers and Bob Marley, obviously. And they, this kind of stuff. I think Jimmy Cliff and Harder They Come was the album and the movie that really had reggae taken off in the 70s. And then obviously Bob Marley in the
I had
Wailers.
a copy of The Harder They Come, but I actually got rid of it. Maybe I made a mistake on that.
It depends. It's very
Great.
poppy. It's very poppy reggae, but I think it's great. But it just
You know what I
depends.
didn't like? I didn't like that 2 or 3 of the songs were repeated on side 2 that were on side 1.
Oh, did you talk about that recently? You talked about that recently.
I left
That's
a
right.
nasty comment on your video about
I,
not nasty, but
I did remember that. Yeah, I I think it's because it's technically a soundtrack, and so one's the reprise of the song at the end of the movie, and they had to fill it up, because they didn't have enough to do a whole thing. Yeah, I don't know the answer, but that's my
I think,
guess.
look, it has Many Rivers to Cross on it, which has got to be one of the most beautiful songs ever. I
Right?
love that song.
Right? Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Cliff. Yeah, good one.
All right, well, I pulled the reggae comp too, so I'll just show that right now. And that is Studio One
Oh, I've seen that.
Roots, it's called. This is like Studio One's also a UK label. I learned about this label from Rob at Sound Strange, but tons of guys like UK VC guys show this label a lot. They've reissued a lot of the catalog. I think most of these Studio One comps, I'm sorry, the record label is called Soul Jazz Records. The series is called Studio One.
I know Soul Jazz. Yeah.
And so Soul Jazz, I think they started reissuing or putting these out in the early 2000s. And then they've more recently reissued a lot of them. I think this was like maybe the fifth Soul Jazz reggae comp they put out or something like that. One other thing I was going to say about reggae comps is that all the music was on 45s. So
Right.
collecting them on the comps is kind of really the only way to do it unless you're going to go find all those original 45s, which I just don't see happening for me. So, and
For
like
anybody. I mean,
most
yeah.
I don't know about, I've never heard of. But the music is incredible. I put this on when I have friends over and we're partying or whatever. It's amazing stuff.
And it's uplifting. It just makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And the first song on this, you throw it on and it's an instrumental and it's just like you're immediately happy, and it's kind of like scary how good this stuff can be because it's such an untapped like world for me. Like I love reggae, but I haven't like researched it too much. I don't know lots of artists. So I kind of just want to pick up like all of these.
It's hard. There's so much out there. If especially if you go to a store that has a reggae section and you don't know what you're getting. I mean, you could take a chance. You might want to sample it. Like those early Wailers, before the Wailers with Bob Marley were on Island record, they were just the Wailers without, I mean, it wasn't Bob Marley on the Wailers. And some of their early records were produced by a guy named Lee Perry, who later became like Lee Scratch Perry. And even that stuff where we would do these sampling and scratch DJ stuff, some of those Lee Scratch Perry comps, but there are a friggin' million of them you see around, and it's hard to know what to get, what's good and what's bad.
Yeah, so I've picked up like 3 or 4 of these soul jazz comps, and they're all fantastic. So I'd highly recommend those. And I
labels. This next one was actually a gift from my friend Amanda, the archivist, who's been on my channel occasionally.
Yep.
And this is the Capsule label, and this is on Numero what's it called?
Numero
Uno record label. They do a lot of reissues and interesting things. And like what you're talking about, this collects 45s that were never on albums. I think the label Capital Soul, it's called Capsule. And is it called Capsule? Yeah, Capsule. And what it was short for, Capital City Soul. And it was a small rhythm and blues soul label out of Columbus, Ohio, in the late 60s, mostly early 70s. I think they only put out about a dozen to 15 45s and 1 or 2 albums at the most. And this came out in the mid 2000s, I guess, as a comp. I'd never heard it until about 3 or 4 years ago when it was sent to me for a birthday gift. And it's so great. And what's interesting about it, it reminds you, as when you listen to it, it sounds like you've heard it all before, because it sounds like all these late 60s, early 70s soul records by people like Edwin Starr, who did War, or The Temptations, and all that kind of top 40 soul music. Problem is, they weren't on Motown, or they weren't in Detroit. They were in friggin' Columbus, Ohio. And no offense to Columbus, Ohio, I think these became a lot of regional hits. And this label, just like Light in the Attic, they put out a lot of these comps of regional groups that, you know, you grew up in Columbus, I assume you heard a lot of this stuff at that point.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the distribution, they didn't have the promotion. So I put this on again this afternoon just to kind of refresh my, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it reminded me of even a little bit of sometimes the Jackson 5, with the good part of the Jackson 5, when they were just really great. And it's really uplifting and really good soul pop music, and really a great collection. Obviously great liner notes, talks about the label and each artist.
Nice.
And again, I've never heard of these artists before.
Right.
Eccentric. Anyway.
I look forward to checking that out. I love soul music, Motown, 60s soul, all that kind of stuff I love. And I've hung out a lot in Columbus. I'm from Cleveland. It's only 2 hours away.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm very familiar with Columbus, but I've never heard of that label. Numero Group did another one like that, but from a label out of Cleveland called the Bodie Recording Company, I think it was called.
Oh yeah, yeah. And they did the tight. Wait, I always get confused with what they put out versus what Light in the Attic put out. The Titan ones too, which is good, which is all these like sort of punky type of garage bands. Is
The
that
only thing on Numero Group I have is this set by The Creation. Do you have this?
that's one of those records. Whenever I see it, I don't know if it's even still available now. I never grab it. I always want to grab it. Is it good?
Super, super great. Yeah, it's really nice 60s garage rock kind of
Yeah.
like
I mean,
whatever.
this record's double record, and I looked on their site today, and it's like $22. You should listen to it first. So for a heavy stock album of $22, double album, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. All right, next up is a single artist comp. Excited to show this because I know you're a big fan of this guy, and you're one of the only guys I've seen show this person, which is messed up because this guy is a legend, right? And no one shows him. So that guy is Louis Jordan.
Oh God,
No one
Buddy,
shows Louis
beware,
Jordan.
beware.
So this is a comp on Charlie, one of my favorite labels, called Jivin' with Jordan.
It's
It's a
so good.
double album.
I don't have that comp.
It
I have a lot of his music.
can't go wrong with any of his comps. This is the one I grabbed because I haven't shown it before.
It's like the late '40s or something, right?
What's that?
I think it's the late '40s. It was recorded.
Yeah, most of the stuff's late 40s.
Yeah.
Actually spans all the like late 30s actually on some of these
Oh,
cuts
yeah.
to the late 40s.
It's like swing. It's swing music and R&B and
Some blues, R&B, incredible stuff. I mean,
Shoot
he
to
was written
Boogie.
off as like the clown prince of the blues, people called him or whatever. But he was an entertainer. But he's a wonderful musician. He's an amazing tenor sax player.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great singer, sax player, a great writer and band leader. Just really one of my favorite guys. And I love this stuff. This has like 5 guys named Mo on it.
Yeah.
And
See, people have heard a lot of people cover that, everything from Asleep at the Wheel to R&B act, they would cover this kind of stuff. The
yep.
song on there, which cracks me up, is a song called, it's probably on there, Beware.
Beware is not on here, but I have another comp I have that has Beware on it. It's great. Beware, brothers, beware.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's a funny song.
It's super funny. Like the bits they do within the songs are hysterical. The voices.
Exactly. And the musicians will sometimes echo him and sing and yell out things, and it's kind of a great thing. I always it's not the same, but it reminds me in that around that period, a little earlier, but is Cab Calloway in that kind of same type of, he's a little more polished, but he was also very theatrical too. He was probably more in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, more of a big band, I guess. This is like, this band's called the Timpani Five, obviously, which it seems like was a little bit fluid. He'd sometimes have 6 guys in it, maybe 5, maybe 7. But the band is so good on this. The drummer and everyone swings really good. And a lot of music I like is influenced by this. Like B.B. King, for example, he talks about in his autobiography that I've read that he was just trying to play Louis Jordan's solos on his guitar. Like that's how he was learning those single note solos. So incredible stuff and truly some of my favorite music that I have.
Let's tell everyone out there, you need to buy a Louis Jordan. I'd like to threaten my audience a little bit. If you don't have a Louis Jordan record in your collection means nothing.
That's right.
You got to have a Louis Jordan. You can get a CD.
That's the truth for me. If you don't have a Louis Jordan record, then I'm not sure.
You're getting a double whammy. Now, the next record is actually 2 records. I'm putting them together because they're volume 1 and I've showed these countlessly. But to me, over the last 5 years of record buying, these are I've showed these a lot. African Scream Contest, Analog Africa is a label, and there's people like Paul Baraka B-Dub and a few other people that have shown their records. I almost will buy anything now through Bandcamp that they put out. But these are from the 60s and 70s, all these independent artists from smaller countries in Africa. And it's like funk, soul, rock and roll, psychedelic, just all these great like singles and things. And I mean, I love this cover. I think that's like the wildest friggin' cover. And what's great about it, some of these have these amazing big giant books that tells a whole history of the recordings and how the producer, the guy, I forgot his name, they're a German label actually.
Right.
How he keeps making trips to Africa. And my latest thing I showed on a release last week artist from Peru, and it's just beautiful, beautifully designed.
Don't you wonder sometimes, like a guy like that, could he possibly make money on this label? I mean, maybe that's not the
Well,
goal, and that's
you know,
amazing. It's not the goal.
I did read all, like I don't read every liner note on all these, but I did read the whole thing on the one recently that he did on the guy from Peru, and I'm blanking on his name right now. That he went down and he finally met him, and he was in this 4-story building. He owns this building there, and he's kind of like an unofficial mayor of the area. And these are things he recorded, in the 80s or something. And it's very instrumental, very like surf guitar-y, but but Peruvian, so Latin kind of rhythms, which I really love because there's that one guitar. I forgot the guy's name, the Cuban guitar player with Ry Cooder album. That
Oh, Manuel
exactly.
Galbon.
Yeah,
Galbon.
it's not unlike that, but it's a little like that, a little more upbeat, danceable, a little funky, a little tinny, but really good. And he talks about going down there, and he negotiated a deal where he got licensing, and I don't think he gets a lot. And the guy thought it was fair, and I think it's definitely a labor of love. But the way they produce these with Bandcamp, and you get a nice download code and online, it's so great.
I want to get some. I just can't, for whatever reason, you know how sometimes you just can't pull the trigger on
I
certain
totally get it.
records. I
Yeah.
want them all. Like I sample them all the time. They sound amazing. I just never can buy one for
Well,
some
you're going
reason.
through I applaud you for going through this thing now of selling certain records that are just sitting on your shelf. And
Mm,
even when you showed out, going through Discogs and selling how easy it is just to fold it and ship it. And I applaud you. And I think when I get in retirement, I have a whole room. I'll be doing that. This will be my shipping room probably at some point. I'm halfway through getting my record collection on Discogs for
okay.
insurance purposes for my son. But at some point, I'll probably start, weeding out things a lot more.
I mean, it's fun. It's fun to just list a few things and make some sales.
Yeah, and
I
it
like the
covers some new
effect of,
things.
was that?
It covers the price of some new things you might want to
Yeah,
get.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if it's a wash.
Let me tell you this: I've never not spent the money on more records on Discogs. It just stays in the PayPal, and then I just spend it. So, all right, I'm gonna show a best of here. Probably one of the most essential best ofs in my collection for me. Best of Solomon Burke.
Ah,
This is actually kind of not an easy record to find. Took me a few years to find this. It's
I
not.
haven't seen that in so long. God.
This is on Atlantic. I forget
Yeah.
when this came out, but oh, it actually says 1966, but it says a barcode on the back, so it must be a
A
reissue.
reissue.
But
That's probably like an 80s reissue then.
yeah, maybe.
Barcodes didn't come to like 83 or something, 82.
Yeah. So Solomon Burke, one of my favorite singers, certainly one of my favorite soul singers. Just an incredible musician and writer. He's actually from Philly, from West Philadelphia, um, and this music is just some of the greatest stuff for me. I mean, song on here called "The Price," "If You Need Me," "Just Out of Reach," "Cry to Me." One song on side 2 here, "Home in Your Heart." Just incredible music, and really it's like my wheelhouse. Is the stuff that I love. I listen to this constantly. I have a few buddies that are real into this kind of stuff. We play this a lot when we're just hanging out and partying.
I forgot which album I have. I have one of his 60s Atlantic records, a 70s pressing, I think. I forgot which one it is, but one of his, not the hits record. I forgot. Anyway,
Do you know what year roughly?
I'm thinking probably 67 or 68. Is he standing on the cover? Wait, maybe it's a close up of his face. I always get confused there's a bunch of it. If you showed me, I would definitely know it. I just can't remember the name of it right now. This is a test. See, I should know.
King Solomon. Is it? Is it this one?
No, I don't have that one.
This is like one of my favorite records of all time.
Is that like 69, 70?
68, I think,
Oh,
69. Yeah. So it's a little more,
yeah, I know that. I mean, I've
funky.
seen that record. I don't have it. Yeah.
That's like funky kind of.
I think it's before that because his hair's shorter.
Okay. So he was a real out there guy, real character, from a lot of stories I've read. Do you ever read books by Peter Gralnick, great music writer?
I've read, no, not books, but I've read like reviews and article magazine pieces from him.
He wrote like the definitive 2-part biography on Elvis, but he's written a book. He's written some books on blues, and then he wrote a book on soul called like Sweet Soul Music. he tells some incredible stories about Solomon Burke that it just will blow your mind. The guy was just a legend and crazy, basically. So yeah, Solomon Burke, the best of Solomon Burke.
Are you a fan of I don't need to get some on vinyl. I realize I don't have any. Is what's the guy? I'm just blanking out. It's the golden soul voice of the '60s who died. It was shot in a hotel
Sam
room with.
Cooke. Sam Cooke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
big Sam Cooke fan
yeah.
here.
I got something I'll be showing later.
Okay, all right, there we go. I'm going back. I'm going to the Merseyside, Liverpool area, and this is a comp of 45s that I got in the '70s. This is a British edition only. A lot of bands that were playing in the Cavern Club around the time of the Beatles, in around and after. The only ones that most people know about are probably the Searchers, the Big Three. Maybe they were an instrumental group to some point. Uh, the Undertakers also, Sonny Webb and the Cascades, Fair and Flamingos. It's got the Escorts, the Mojos, uh, Howie Casey and the Seniors. Rory Storm the Hurricane was the band that Ringo played drums in before he joined the Beatles, and he left Rory Storm when he was invited to be in the Beatles. And this is just a great comp of rock and roll music from Liverpool and the surrounding areas in 64 to 66, I believe. Yeah, no, 62 to 64. So right in there, just before the Beatles. And it comes with a replica of the Mercy Beat. Mercy Beat was the the rock magazine put out in Liverpool at the time.
The Mersey River, right, runs right through there.
Yeah, the Mersey River. And there's a famous Jerry and the Pacemaker song, "Ferry Across the Mersey." I've been to Liverpool twice. When
I went there for the first time last year, actually.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we took a trip. We went to London, and then we went up to Liverpool for a few nights, and then we ended the trip in Dublin. Had an amazing time. Liverpool was very cool. I had a great time.
Yeah. And I've said this before when we did our book project. I mean, at the time, you'd go there and you'd say, "Where are all the Beatles sites?" "Oh, there's nothing here to see." They were this was in the late '70s, 78, 70 or so. And now it's like totally, rebuilt Cavern Club, the Beatles Center. The airport's named after John Lennon. I mean, everything. They have the statues. They're milking it, rightly so. It's kind of like, but it's, they should. But I think they got a little pissed when the Beatles left for London, that type of thing.
Right.
Kind of like, no offense to Akron, Ohio, you got to go to New York or LA usually to get famous. That's not the case anymore, but that was in the old days.
Yeah, Liverpool is really cool. I really enjoyed the architecture, like a very unified look to all the buildings and everything. And we actually knew someone who was a friend of my wife's from growing up in northern New Jersey. Her husband is a guy from Liverpool, and his aunt who raised him still lives there. So we hooked up with her, and she took us around. She was a nun, and she took us to the cathedrals and stuff, and just had a great time. It was very, very cool.
Yeah, it's actually really nice to have someone to show you around. First time, we had rented a car. We drove from London through Wales and up. And first of all, it was a stick shift in those days, and it's your wheels on the other side, so you almost run over one just coming out of the rental car train station because you're used to going a certain way. And
yeah, I refused to drive the whole time I was on this
it's
trip.
a mess.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Very cool stuff. All right, another one similar to what I've shown, but I know you're a fan of this guy as well. But again, no one shows us.
Don't just kiss my ass here, Brian.
I'm really not. I'm showing you some of my favorite stuff, though.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a snarky. I think you know that.
Louis Prima. I love this comp. Has the greatest cover I've ever seen, probably. But it's similar to the Louis Jordan. It's jump blues, kind of R&B. Just incredible stuff. He's funny, but the band swings and the vocals are amazing.
And Keely,
Keely Smith.
Keely Smith and Joe, the horn player, Joe. What's his name? Oh.
Can't think of the horn. I'm not sure.
Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
So this is a comp on Charlie again, and it has Jump, Jive, and Wail. Just a Gigolo, I Ain't Got No Body, just some classic songs. Pennies from Heaven, Bonacera, which is a lovely. So I think Bonacera is one of his most lovely songs.
They were like the ultimate Reno Vegas act.
Yeah, I remember you picked up one of his records. Was it at that record show where you met up with like Bo and a couple other people in the
Oh, and
VC?
Hannah and Bo. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I do every time I see him, I either his or Keely Smith's, I grab them. I have a great box set, CD box set from Bear Family, the German label, and
Yeah.
it's like 12 or 16 CDs. I don't even know where that is right now. It's got to be right
No.
there. It's so good. That music is so fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Part of like Louis Prima and Louis Jordan as well. To me, like a true test of the music is that I could put it on in any group of people, like any generation, my grandparents or my friends. I think everyone kind of likes it.
It kind of seems timeless, even though it's not really. But and a lot of people they should be taught right now. He did the voice of the ape in the Jungle Book, the original Disney's Jungle Book. I'm the ape of the jungle. That version, such a great song too.
Great song, and that was one of my favorite Disney movies when I was a kid
Right?
as well.
Totally.
Yeah, big fan. I just love the cover on that too.
All right, this is a comp, but it's one of my favorite comps, but it's a box, and it came out in '75, I believe. It's called Electric Muse: The Story of Folk into Rock, and this was a UK release. It came out years later on compact disc, but one of the first box sets that I remember buying in the '70s that was sort of a comp thing, because there were single comps, but not a lot of box sets. And what it documents, and it does it really well. It documents British folk music from the '60s as it was morphing from acoustic, crossing over somewhat into electric. The British folk rock, and of course Headley would be all over this. I'm sure he has this because that's right up his wheelbase too, and it's mine too. Because my favorite artists are amongst the things that Joe Boyd, the producer, produced, like Fairport Convention, John Renbourn and Bert Jansch, Davy Graham, Roy Harper. Yeah, Roy Harper. And there's a whole series, Sandy Denny, Pentangle, Traffic, um, Shirley Collins, and Davy Graham, which is really great. I mean, they're all kind of the same covers, really. So, I mean, slightly. But 4 LPs of this stuff, and it just fuses that. I mean, it's heavy with things like Fairport Convention, and it's got some Lead Belly. So it got some music Americans coming over there a little bit, but Chieftains, Dubliners, and John Martin also, who was on Island Records.
Yeah.
But I just love this I love acoustic folk, and I love that merging of. I mean, again, that's going back to the beginning here. Why I like the Byrds so much: folk music, add a 12-string or some rock and roll a little bit, and you got that little fusion. Not everyone did it well, but that folk rock thing. It's kind of like when Simon and Garfunkel make their first album and it bombs, and Paul Simon goes to London, they take a break, and the friggin' producers at Columbia stick a rhythm section, drum section on Sounds of Silence, and it becomes a hit, unbeknownst to them, and they come back, and the rest is history, folk rock beat, add a drum and a bass and an electric guitar.
Nice. Yeah, I like that kind of stuff as well. I've never seen that box set or comp or whatever before.
I see it occasionally used, not a lot. I've had it since then, and I did buy the CD when it came out when I was in my 15-year period of not buying records, and I was just buying compact discs because I was listening to it all the time. I'm glad I didn't get rid of that when I got rid of a handful, more than a handful, a couple thousand records in the mid '90s.
Is the Pentangle on that set?
Yep.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
Yeah.
I
think it's three or
Sorry.
4 Pentangle songs.
Oh, cool. That's great stuff.
Their first record. Do you have the first record with the type, the white with the black cut?
I don't think so.
That you should get that. I guarantee you'll like it. That was when I first bought my first component system. They're playing that in the stereo store, and there's a song on there called Waltz on it, which is a instrumental. It's really like folky jazz in a way. Really good.
I need to get some more Pentangle records. I have one, and I really
They're
like
cheap,
it.
most of them. I see them, like the Reprise stuff. Warner Reprise is pretty cheap, I find.
Back to Fairport Convention, I got to see Richard Thompson put on a solo acoustic gig like 2 months ago, right before all this went down with the coronavirus.
Wow.
I guess maybe 3 months ago at this point. But he played this like weird little theater right in my area called the Scottish Rite, and I got some free tickets. A coworker of mine's sister runs the venue, and
Wow.
they usually get these weird acts like that are past their prime, like the Beach Boys now. Like they'll get shows like that, like artists that are amazing but are way past their prime. That's kind of the artists they book. So she hooked me up with some tickets, and I took a few buddies, and
Did you like him?
he was incredible. Yeah,
Great guitar player.
amazing guitar player. He stood up the whole time.
Yeah.
Really loud guitar, like it was loud in a theater with just the acoustic guitar.
He wears that beret a lot. Does he wear a beret?
He wore a beret, and he was super funny, and it was a really good show. I had a
Yeah,
great
I've seen
time.
him maybe 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good guy. Really good. Yeah.
yeah, and interesting, cool voice too.
Yeah, it's really deep. It's unusual.
All right, so I pulled. We were talking about Sam Cooke before. This is the original Soul Stirrers featuring Sam Cooke. This is
Nice.
a comp on Specialty.
I've never seen that.
Not a great. It's kind of a horrible album cover, to be honest. But
Bad illustration, but I've never seen it.
yeah, and it's got some great songs in here though, like "Jesus Gave Me Water." If you know that one with where Sam Cooke takes the lead on it.
I think so. I do have one compact disc set of his more religious recordings, spiritual stuff, which I love. So I love gospel music.
That?
No, it's the SAR.
Okay.
SAR sounds like a disease.
So I'll just keep going a little bit, but so this is a collection of records he did with the Soul Stirrers. He's the lead on some of the songs, but not on all of them. Johnny Taylor is the lead on some of these songs.
This is a SAR story.
Never
This
seen
is
that.
before. This is 1959 and 1965. It's only 2 CDs, but it's got a beautiful book, and I highly recommend this. I mean, his voice, anything, it's like butter.
Yeah. So on here you got not only Sam Cooke singing lead, but you also have Johnny Taylor, who's a great kind of soul singer. I have a few records by him as well. Just there's some incredible songs. There's a song in here called "The Love of God," which is a lead by Johnny Taylor, not by Sam Cooke. That's incredible. But "Jesus Gave Me Water," "Touch the Hem of His Garment." Those are songs with Sam taking the lead on the vocals. And I love this stuff. I'm not a religious person at all. I grew up without religion.
But you can still I'm the same way, I mean, I used to be more, but not even that religion, but I just love that music. I love good gospel music. It's soulful.
Great harmonies, and it's bluesy too. It's bluesy and soulful, and it's really, really great stuff that I love to listen to. I don't listen to this kind of stuff all the time, but when I'm in the mood for it in the morning or at the right time, if I go through something kind of heavy and I want to like emphasize that in my life and like really kind of dig into that kind of feeling. Like I've heard people make videos where they talk about how during sad times they listen to happy music. I don't. I listen to sad music when I'm sad. Like I don't. That's just how I handle it. But
I did a depressing video last year at one point, and the thing that I did all these records that make me feel really good but are depressing, like Nick Cave's Boatman's Call. I love that. It's really dirge you down, and it just makes me feel good when I hear it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm a big fan. Died way too young. Like you said, he was shot in a hotel.
Yeah.
I
watched a documentary on him recently.
Oh, really? I haven't seen
it.
that.
Netflix or one of those. It's on one of the streamers.
I think basically like he had like a prostitute or something in his hotel room.
To this day, there are still like conspiracy theories about that and what happened. I forgot now because I just watched that like 2 or 3 months ago, and it talked about and I don't even remember now what it was about. Did they really investigate it rightly? Originally didn't know who it was because he was pretty famous by that point, but just a whole like
it's crazy. I mean, amazing singer, obviously, but also a great businessman and a great, like, he owned his own publishing company, and maybe, I don't know if he owned his own label. I'm not positive about that.
Well, that's part of the conspiracy. There are things about like mafia related killings, and because of the record business, because of the publishing, because of, I mean, the whole thing was going on. I mean, it's nothing new. Stories in the 60s, especially of the in the 70s, early 70s, even the record business, and buying records and putting cheap cutouts out and things and destroying them and writing them off, and just, I mean, mafia was big into the music business at one point.
Yeah.
All right, another box set, but I bought this in 1973. I'm not quite sure exactly why I did it at the time, but it's called 50 Years of Film Music. There is a companion, 50 Years of Film, and it's Warner Brothers. And this is basically a 3-record set with a beautiful book of dialogue from the history of Warner Brothers motion pictures. Everything from Ingmar Bergman to Bogart to Betty Davis, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Streetcar Named Desire, The Glass Menagerie, Music Man, The Jazz Singer. But this has all these great bits of music from songs, everything from Dooley Wilson, from Casablanca, to things from The Music Man, Camelot, Ruby Keeler, from the musicals, but also Star is Born, James Cagney. And I remember I got this originally at the time because in the 70s, I used to make, I was in the broadcasting department at San Francisco State, and I used to make at home, I had a reel-to-reel recorder, a lot of montage audio recordings. And I loved like literally splicing audio tape and doing like, not really like tape loops, like things like Revolution #9 or stuff, but on the radio station at my college, I would do these montages. So there'd be like a Led Zeppelin song. It would stop at the solo and would go into some Betty Davis thing or from Robin Hood, from Errol Flynn. And so I bought this really to get the recordings. It has a book about the movies and everything. And it's just little clips. So it has like 2 to 3 to 4 minute clips. It does have Yankee Doodle Dandy by James Cagney singing from that movie. Some of the stuff's really campy. Some of it's beautiful, but the earlier stuff from the Al Jolson, from the jazz singer in the 20s to the 40s and 50s, to all their classics, to the noir stuff. I just really like it. I don't really put this on much anymore, but in a way, this was sort of a library source database before we had the internet and downloads and stuff. And I play this a lot, and I used them a lot more as a resource thing. But I just love these.
Those sleeves were amazing looking.
Right? I mean, the inside sleeves are like,
great. Yeah.
And a whole book and everything. But you can understand this is 50 years of Warner Brothers. So shit, in 3 years it's going to be 100 years. So this is like 40. I mean, I can't believe that. Jesus Christ.
Amazing. I love classic movies like that, but I haven't seen a lot of them. I would like to see more of them.
You got the time now, maybe.
Yeah, I do. I got to find a way to get the movies, though. I mean, I don't have cable anymore, so I used to watch like You Classic Movies.
You can do an app. You can do the Criterion apps or some of those apps, I think.
Oh, okay, I'll have to look into that.
Anyway.
All right.
I got 2 more.
I have like a couple more, but I'll just pare it down to 2.
Whatever. Yeah.
All right. Here's a cool one. It's a blues comp on Yazoo. Love the illustration on the cover. Truckin' My Blues Away by Blind Boy Fuller. This is on, like I said, on Yazoo. I think that's an R. Crumb illustration on the cover. Love that. So he was like a Piedmont blues singer. This is all stuff from the early 30s, I believe. Kind of ragtime guitar playing. Great songs like I Crave My Pygmy. Yep. Great early pre-war blues. This label was founded by a guy named Nick Pearls. All the records, as far as I understand, were sourced from his personal 78 collection. But they sound really good. He did a really good job of, I guess, mastering them, or I don't know what the technical term would be, but the records sound really listenable, even though the music is from the 20s and 30s. So great stuff. Good vocals on here, and just solo acoustic guitar.
I have a couple of, I don't have that, but I have a couple of CD comps that, in fact, sorry.
There's a couple photographs of him on the back.
That he does the illustrations on, I mean, blues and CDs by R. Crumb too.
Yeah.
Hot Women, Exotic and Spicy, World Musette, French things that he played with, because, he has his band where he plays some kind of stuff, his orchestra kind of thing. So I love his illustrations, and these are Yazoo as well, some of these.
Yeah, very cool label. I was saying Nick Pearls was the guy that created that label. Did you ever read the book, Mazzy, called Do Not Sell at Any Price?
This about the 78s.
Yeah, the 78 collectors.
Again, my friend, yeah, I have read that. She wrote it's funny, her name is Amanda too. My friend Amanda, the archivist, gave me
Right.
that 2 years ago.
Yeah, I thought I maybe saw you show it. I saw
I don't know if I showed it. I don't think I've shown it.
maybe you didn't. I saw I think Teddy at Eat Sleep Vinyl show it a couple years ago when it came out, and I immediately
Great
bought
book.
like I read this thing in like 3 hours. I just couldn't put it down. Um, and they talk about Nick Pearls in here. He was one of the prominent 78 collectors, and all the records on Yazoo, as far as I know, or most of them were sourced from his personal 78 collection.
Wow.
So yeah, very cool book. If anyone in the VC hasn't read this, definitely check it out. It gets into some of the weird aspects of collecting, and she kind of covers like the history of collecting in general and the sort of demographics that tend to be collectors and that kind of thing. Very
Really well written, really interesting.
Yeah.
It seems like it's something that would be really dry, but it's not. It's
Yeah.
nice.
Great label, Yazoo.
This is a weird thing because, okay, this is called Heavy Fucking Art. Okay. There was it's an art project in the early, I don't know, 2003, I think. West Coast, East Coast art collective, A Life. I forgot which one's on the West Coast and which is on the East Coast, and Never Stop combined to do it. They did two of these record collections, and there's only 6 artists on it, and I've never heard of these artists. And I had this record, and I was bringing back the archives, talking to the archives about it, and I couldn't remember where I got this record. And she said, "God, I have the first one of that. That's pretty rare. Where did you get that?" And I said, "I didn't know." Anyway, what's interesting about it, it has one side of a record, and then the back side, you know, some records have the tracks are on one side, and then the other side is etchings. There's nothing on the other side.
Right.
And I don't really remember what the music sounds like. But what's interesting about this collection is the artwork, because there were a lot of street artists at the time, including the one that most people might know if they follow art is Mike Mills, is an artist. But they took famous record covers and they appropriated them and altered them. In a way, it's kind of like a mixtape or a mashup, but a visual mashup. So it has famous record covers, like Alice Cooper record cover. Some people might recognize some of the record covers.
Cool.
And they just totally bastardize them.
The Pretenders.
Right? I mean, some of the details, you know, it's the Dylan Greatest Hits.
Oh, yeah.
Greatest Hits Volume 2. Yeah.
I have Volume 2, not Volume 1, yeah.
Everybody knows Neil Young. Yeah. I mean, I just love the art in this book, you know. I won't go through every page, but I was thinking, where did I get this? And I was talking, so I pull this thing out, and I find this, and I write and she gave it to me, and she totally forgot she gave it to me. Oh, and she has the first one. She goes, "I've been looking for the second one for years." And she must have given it to me like 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Oh,
wow. In San Francisco. And so it was kind of funny, but it's a weird comp. It's somewhat collectible. It's a little messed up, but I don't even know the music. And I think I might have got this just as I was leaving San Francisco. It might have been a going away present when I was leaving San Francisco to come to Seattle. So I don't think I've listened to it, but I love it for the artwork. So
yeah, that's very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. I don't have tons of comps outside of blues, I realized. So I just have some more Yazoo blues records to show. Here, this is a legendary one.
No excuses, Brian.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Don't listen to me.
Sound like my boss or something. All right.
Don't listen to me, Brian.
Here's the first ever release on Yazoo. Actually, it came out on the label that predated Yazoo called Belzona Records, but then it was reissued on Yazoo. So the first ever release from Nick Pearls called Mississippi Blues. Came out in the like 68, 69, I think, right around there.
I've never seen that.
And it's got Skip James, Charlie Patton, Robert Johnson, Son House. The nice. First song on here is incredible, called Gang of Brown Skin Women by Harvey Hull. Amazing song. Yeah, excellent record. Like,
I want to get more Charlie Patton stuff. I love his stuff.
I don't have a lot of his stuff either. Yeah.
I have nothing on vinyl, but I don't really care. I mean, CDs would be fine, but I have nothing. I
I
have
also,
one little comp, I think, or one
yeah,
single.
I'm in the same boat. I only have them on this comp, I think, or
An
one other.
important artist in the history of
Yeah,
folk
not
blues
not one
blues.
of my favorite personally to listen to, but I mean, I respect the hell out of him, and he's an interesting character. He's a real showman from what I've read.
Yeah,
By the way, I'm looking over my door here. My dog's got her paw underneath the door, so she's like I won't let her in the room, but she wants to be in the room, so she puts her leg in the room with me. Anyways,
that's a sign. We're winding down here anyway.
yep,
So
yep. So Mississippi blues, killer stuff. I'll just show a couple more real quick. I showed this recently in a video, but it's Pioneers of the Jazz Guitar on Yazoo. All different artists, all guitar duets. So you got like Lonnie Johnson and Eddie Lang on here, who are like early jazz guitar players. Eddie Lang, the father of jazz guitar, is known as. Lonnie Johnson, one of the first guys to do single note guitar solos on the guitar. Um, so that's another Yazoo release. And then I got one more, Ma Rainey's Black
Rainey.
Bottom,
Wow.
Yazoo. I bought this in Boston. Apparently, it came from Middlebury, which I think is a college in Vermont somewhere. Liberal arts.
Library, looks like library edition.
Yeah, Middlebury College Music Library.
Yes,
So
what happens is starving DJs steal them and sell them to use record stores. And
yeah, maybe. So another cool release. This is she's a classic blues singer from the
I know them already. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, Great stuff. I mean,
I love this old stuff. And again, I mean, I'm glad we touched on it a lot because there isn't a lot of this kind of stuff in the vinyl community. And I just love, I mean, even, and I love obviously Blue Note and the jazz and the whole Verve stuff, but I really like going bebop and before that, like everything from Louis Jordan, Duke Ellington, Charlie Christian, that kind of stuff. I just love
yeah,
that also. And
yeah.
maybe at some point we can do one more on that kind of stuff too.
Do you have this record, Solo
I
Flight?
do. I
Yeah.
do.
You can
That's a
find this in
Columbia
dollar
comp.
bins still, and it's gold. I mean, a lot of stuff with Benny Goodman that he did.
It's big band. You don't think what you're going to hear when you get it because you hear this big band of Benny Goodman stuff with his clarinet and everything, but he does his solos. It's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
I love his guitar playing. It's great
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I'm going down to Z. So Z, I pulled out from my Zs and my comps and my soundtracks. And it's a soundtrack, but I think it's a great soundtrack, especially the expanded version. When this originally came out on vinyl or as a soundtrack in the late 60s, early 70s, it was a single disc and it was expanded for compact disc and then put out, and that's Zabriskie Point.
Hmm.
Antonioni, sort of Italian, somewhat avant-garde filmmaker. He's one of those filmmakers that a lot of people like can't watch his films because they're slow and boring and artsy and signs of the time, 69, 70, 71, that European, even an American, some of that. I love cinema during that period, but it can be challenging if you're not in the mood. But
Okay.
what's great about this, it's one of the great soundtracks. A lot of it are just these improvisations by Pink Floyd. So
Hmm.
it's got a lot of Pink Floyd. It's got Kaleidoscope, the psychedelic band. It's got some Grateful Dead excerpt from Dark Star. It's got Youngblood, Sugar Blade, Jerry Garcia, Love Scene. Jerry Garcia just jamming on guitar, instrumental. John Fahey, more Pink Floyd, a lot more Jerry Garcia, and a lot more Pink Floyd. So Pink Floyd and Jerry Garcia and make out the bulk of this with one John Fahey song. But bizarre
Kaleidos-
movie. Um,
Kaleidoscope's a cool band.
yeah, this is one of my favorite. This again, to me, this what makes a perfect competent soundtrack, where you can listen to it and it just takes you. It's a little moody at times, but then it's got this song "Sugar Babe" by the Youngbloods, which is kind of like a country upbeat, you know, uh, acoustic thing, really. So, but it's really a nice soundtrack, and especially the double edition of this, which you can get onto compact disc as well. But so I'm closing this off with Zabriskie Point.
Cool.
I go in these moods. I'm in a Pink Floyd zone again, and I did that Pink Floyd video last week.
Yeah, I watched that. It was good stuff.
Yeah,
I don't think
I like that stuff. But everything you get into moments where you're into one artist, that's all you want to listen to, then you can't listen to them for a year or two or whatever.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I get obsessed with an artist about 3 to 4 weeks at a time. I'm doing it with the Beach Boys right now. I've been listening to nothing but Beach Boys
All
and
periods or early or just
all periods, but most like a lot of the middle kind of period.
Like
Um,
surf's up type stuff.
Surfs Up I picked up recently.
I
That's
like
like
that record.
it's a good record. Yeah, interesting stuff. There's some great songs in there. Disney Girls and the
Disney Girls is gorgeous. Yeah.
title track super good. But there's gems all throughout the career for them. So I've been just kind of cherry picking the ones that I want to hear. But I've been just obsessively listening to them.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of, what is it, 15 Big Ones?
Yeah, I don't have that, but I got one more comp to show.
Okay.
It's another blues comp, but it's on chess. Um, Chicago Blues Anthology. I just like the cover a lot, but it's got a lot of classic blues tracks like "Dust My Broom" um, by Elmore James. It's got Buddy Guy on here, Big Bill Brunsey, I think. Johnny Shines. Yeah, just a cool like double album on chess. I have tons of records on chess. Chess did really great reissues in like the 70s and 80s. Chess Master Series or
Yeah.
Remaster Series. Have a lot of those.
And they've done a great, again, I show CDs every once in a while, and the Chess Masters series of Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry
Yep.
and Muddy Waters, great sets.
Yeah, I have it all, and some of them, like I have some John Lee Hooker ones from the '80s. They were mastered by Steve Hoffman, so it's like the sound is great, like cleaned up a lot and better maybe in some cases. But yeah, so I'll end on that one. But big fan of chess and blues in general, so I had to show some of that.
That was fun. Thanks for doing this. Thanks. So I'll say black beans and rice, not red beans and rice. I'm
That's
sorry.
right.
Wrong color. All these friggin' color things lately. Black album covers, orange, black, and white album covers. I couldn't keep up my green vinyl guy, black, blues, whatever. Couldn't
Yeah.
remember.
Hey, thanks for
Okay.
having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh
And
yeah. So this will be up tomorrow. But of course, if you're watching this now, it's already up. But that's for you, Brian. This will be up tomorrow. Thanks again, and Mazzy loves you.
yeah, peace. Hope I didn't embarrass myself. And cheers.
Never.